Most of you listening aren't going to do this, but if you took the next year and dedicated yourself to building your personal brand, your life would completely change. And I am living proof of this because I just got a 6-figure remote leadership position for one of the top companies in the content creator space, and I never sent in an application. But what's even more interesting than that is that I absolutely turned down that application because what was far better than using my personal brand to get that job is that I was able to use my personal brand to build a 6-figure business as a coach. And I never had to do any kind of outreach. I never had to pay for any marketing. All of that came from people who follow me on social media, liked my message, liked my perspective on social media, and decided to work with me. I work 15 to 20 hours per week. I wake up every day loving what it is that I do. I feel fulfilled in what I do. I feel like I am truly helping people and making a difference. I feel like I am helping people live in their purpose, all while working less, having more money, and feeling like I have more control over my life. But the reason that most of you aren't going to do this is because you can't see the reward on the other side because you haven't experienced it yet. You're going into this assuming that a year is a really long time to spend, and what if it doesn't work out? But how often have you dedicated yourself consistently to something for a year and it not bring some type of result? You operate in fear of failure instead of confidence and success. Whereas if you move forward knowing that what it is that you want will be yours, that putting the time into building this personal brand will be worth it, you have no idea where you may end up. You have no idea what type of life you might be living. Is taking a chance on taking 1 year of your life and moving it forward not worth the risk of failure? Is the opportunity to have more control of over your time, to make more money, to be able to spend more time with the people that you care about, to be able to wake up every day doing something that you absolutely love, not sound worth the possibility that maybe you dedicating yourself to this thing for a year won't get you exactly where you want to go? I can promise you that you will get something out of this year that you take to build your personal brand if you're one of the 5% of people who will actually take the time this year to do that. And today, in this episode of Socially Unaware, episode 7, I believe, hi, welcome back, I'm going to be answering some of the most asked questions I get when it comes to building a personal brand. I asked you guys on my Instagram what you guys wanted to know related to personal branding, and a little bit of an announcement. I am taking on 10 content creators, business owners, or creatives who are wanting to build or enhance their personal brand into a very concentrated group training program. So if you are interested in that, feel free to DM me on Instagram at Donavan Barrett or email me at donavan@narrativecreative.agency to be a part of that. Now let's get into the questions. How can I figure out what my brand is if I don't know what kind of stuff I want to make? So I got a lot of questions related to this. What if I don't know what it is that I want to do? What if I don't know what my brand is? How can I start posting content? How can I start showing up and building it? And what I want you to understand, and this is going to be something that I point out several times in this video because it is essential and I don't see anybody else talking about this, is that your personal brand is not what you do. It is who you are. It is your story, and it is using your story to connect with people who share a similar perspective or who are on a similar path to you. And who you are is something that is going to change throughout time. So even if you knew exactly what it is that you wanted to do right now, 5 years from now, that might completely change. And that is the benefit of having a personal brand over a business brand, is that having a personal brand allows you to evolve and change because the focus is on falling in love with you as the person sharing your story rather than what it is that you're doing. So many people are taking advice from those who tell them that they have to niche down and pick one thing that they want to talk about. When in reality, you need to understand who the audience is and understand what journey you're on and who the audience is that's going to be able to connect with that journey. And all of the things that you may potentially want to do under that simply have to fall under that story. For example, you could want to be a writer, a content creator, musician, and a video gamer. And maybe all of those connect to this idea that you had your childhood taken away from you way too early. And so you're wanting to reconnect with your inner child by pursuing all of the creative and fun things that you never got to do because you had way too many responsibilities when you were younger. And that is the journey that you're on. Well, all of a sudden, all of those things that you're doing fit perfectly under that very simple and focused story that is going to connect with a large group of people who are also feel like their childhood was maybe taken away from them too early and also want to reconnect with your inner child. That is the core of your personal brand as it exists in that moment. Think about your favorite musicians, your favorite artists. Beyonce being one of my favorite artists, her personal brand is not that she is a singer. Her personal brand is not that she is a dancer. Her personal brand is not that she's whatever. Beyonce is a representative for marginalized communities, specifically Black people who want to have their voices amplified. She is a beacon of hope for people who are in marginalized communities to feel like they have a shot at being one of the biggest artists to ever exist. That is what Beyonce's personal brand is. She has a respect to culture, an idea of pursuing excellence above all else. Those are all of the things that define Beyonce. And her singing, her dancing, her performances, her music, all of that are simply the tools that she uses to exemplify that message. So if there is one thing that I could teach you in this podcast, it is to understand that your personal brand is not defined by what you're doing, but who you are. So going to the question on what if I don't know what my thing is yet, you could start your personal brand by identifying what your thing is yet. There are a lot of people out in the world who don't know who they are, who have ambition, they want to do a bunch of things, but they don't know what it is that they want to do. You could be the guinea pig of someone who just goes out and tries things, who shows them that it's okay to try something and learn that maybe that wasn't for them, and that by learning that that wasn't for them, you're that much closer to figuring out what is. And your entire brand can be centered around figuring out who you are. And then once you figure out kind of what your thing is, because you have a personal brand and you have an audience of people who will fall in love with your story and your journey, they're going to be excited to transition with you into you finding that thing and then starting to talk about that thing. It will feel like a natural progression. The next question is how to deal with doubts and fears of not having your results and just starting. This is really important. And this again goes into people who share a lot of bad advice where they say that the content you create or the message that you put out needs to be something that provides value to an audience. And these are well-meaning people. And it's not that it doesn't have to provide value to an audience in some way. I mean, after all, why would somebody watch you if there's nothing in it for them? But what you have to understand is that the message that you're putting out is for you first. And you have to understand that the people there are a lot of people out there who are going to share in the same feelings you are. If there is one thing that the internet has taught us, it's that we have never lived a unique experience. But when you're constantly creating from the perspective of what can I make that other people will resonate with, you end up creating things or sharing things that feel removed from you. And your entire strategy becomes about serving other people so that there's nothing in it for yourself. And so when you have nothing in it for yourself and you're constantly sharing stuff for other people and it's not getting the result that you want, of course, that's going to be incredibly discouraging because the entire worth of you posting this message is in how other people respond to it, because you are creating for other people. Whereas when you create for yourself, one, the things that you put out are probably going to be much more impactful because you're going to speak to the camera, or you're going to write content that feels like it's speaking to yourself, which is going to come across as much more nuanced, much more impactful. You're going to have a much more convincing tone and cadence because you're probably going to get emotionally invested in the content because you resonate with it personally. The content is going to be better. And it's also probably going to make you want to stick with it longer because now you have a reason to be creating and sharing and putting out this message outside of what it can do for other people. When your content, when your messaging, when your business becomes an extension of a journey that you are on or a person that you're becoming or something that you are learning, there is something in it outside of what the result of that content is. So you're going to stick with it long enough. I always like to use the gym as an analogy because I think it's such an important and relevant analogy for almost anything when it comes to building a habit. You are not going to see any big body transformations from the gym for at least a month just to notice anything. And it's probably going to take significantly longer before you see some huge transformation. So most people who find success in the gym are not people who obsess over what the end result is. And even the people who do find success in the gym by focusing on the end result typically don't maintain that result, because then once you've maintained the result or you've achieved the result, there's nothing holding you to continuing to show up and do the thing. The people who find the most success in fitness and the gym are people who learn to fall in love with the process of going to the gym. So to not obsess over the results of social media and what your content is doing, you have to get comfortable and find a way to enjoy what it is that you're putting out every day. You have to find a way to enjoy the practice of posting and sharing your message and using it as a tool for self-care, using it as something that gives back to yourself just as much as it may be connecting people with your audience, and understanding that by sharing a message that speaks to you, you are going to connect other people like you, which is exactly what a personal brand is supposed to do, is connect the person with people who share in in their story, share in their values, share in their ethics. So you don't have to sit here and figure out how you're going to speak to this audience or who this audience is or how they're going to perceive you. Show up as the content creator, as the business owner, as the brand that you need or needed at one point in time. By far the most common question I got is, how do I niche down? And I kind of touched on this with that first question. When people think of niching down, they think of niching down on a topic. What is the thing I'm going to talk about, or what is the thing I'm going to do in my content? Am I a basketball player? Am I a coach? Am I a gamer? Am I a cat dad? And what you have to understand is that you don't need to niche down on your topic, because your topic is simply the tool. It's the screwdriver. Your message, your story is what you need to, quote, niche down on. You need to get targeted on what it is that you want to say, how you want to say it, and who you want to say it to. And then however many interests you can have as many as you want to, as long as they are focusing on that goal. I call it having your compass. It's a sentence or two, a mission statement that defines who it is that you want to speak to, what is the journey that you're on, and what is it that you are hoping to gain from that journey. So no, you do not need to have one topic that you're talking about. For example, my personal brand is that my purpose is to help other people live in their purpose. And the audience that I predominantly speak to are marginalized communities. I speak to most of my clients, most of my audience are women or people of color or queer people. It's not my only audience, but those are the primary people who resonate with me. And I have many channels that I use to exemplify that. I have this podcast as one thing where I do a lot of mindset work. I have my business, which is a lot of social media coaching and mindset coaching. I have a poetry book that I'm writing, going to publish one day, because it's always been my dream to be a writer. Like, there are different avenues that I can use to channel this message, but it all falls under this compass of my purpose on this earth is to help other people find and live in their purpose. And I can do anything I want to as long as it falls under that. And even within my content, I've been able to post different types of content, and they all do well because they all are still focusing in on that compass. So instead of trying to figure out what topic it is that you want to talk about, ask yourself, what is my compass? What do I want to share? What journey am I on? Who's going to resonate with that journey? And likely it's going to be people who are just like you, because again, we are attracting people who are like us by sharing content from within and creating content for us. And additionally, you can share your interests even if they have nothing to do with your compass if you don't make them a main character. So for example, on Instagram, I've recently been sharing these like storytelling vlogs, and I will share a message that speaks to my compass of helping other people live in their purpose. But I will incorporate little clips of me playing video games, me reading, me going out and trying different cafes, me playing my guitar. And these are not things that are relevant to my story, but I'm also not making them the main character. They are simply little clips or nuggets in my content that maybe a select portion of my content may resonate with, and therefore form a deeper connection with me because they share that similar interest with me. But I'm not sitting here making videos about how to be a good gamer or how to play the guitar. You can fit all of these things and showcase all of these interests that you have in your story, in your content, if you don't make all of them a main character. So ask yourself, what are the things that you care about most, that you actually care about making content about, and have those be the main characters of your story, and then allow all these other things to simply be little nuggets that are niche for your hardcore supporters who may find a way to build a deeper connection with you through some of these smaller interests that you have and these smaller interests that you share. It becomes this exclusive opportunity for people who really follow you to feel like they know you to a level that maybe the general audience doesn't. And those are people who maybe have a reason to stick with you longer than just a month or two, because maybe your regular content is super educational and they don't need your education anymore, but they love that you also play video games and you play the same video games that they do, so they keep following you. I actually love this next question. It says, do you ever question yourself if your brand is you enough? How do you be authentic? By understanding that no matter how vulnerable you are, how transparent you are, how honest you are never going to be able to fit your entire personality into a screen, into a message on the internet. You are a human being first, and your personal brand brand is not going to fully represent who you are. Think of it this way. You act differently with your friends than you do your family members, and then you do with your boss, and then what you do at home when you're by yourself. You act differently around different people. All of those people know you as a different version of yourself, and all of those things are true. You're not faking it for anybody. Well, maybe your boss, I don't know. But likely you're not faking who you are for any one of these people. They just all see a different side of you that is relevant to the context of how you need to show up in that environment or what you're trying to accomplish in that environment. So you don't need to sit here and make your boss understand how you act with your friends, and you don't need to make your friends understand how you act with your boss, and you don't need to make your family understand how you act with your friends. Showing up in your professional, personal brand is showing the side of you that is relevant to the type of brand that you want to build. You will never fully encompass yourself in a screen, and you're not meant to. It is important to have an element of your life be private, be just for your friends and family. I have never told a single lie. I am so vulnerable in all of my content. I am pretty much an open book in the things that are relevant to the type of content I create. I will answer any question about my business. I will answer any question about my personal brand. I will answer any question about social media. I will share the parts of my personal story that are relevant to me building the life of my dreams. But what I don't share much is me hanging out with my friends. What I don't share is what I do, the video games that I play at home with my cats. What I don't share are things that are completely irrelevant to my brand. If they aren't relevant to my brand, I don't share my dating life. I don't share those things because it's not relevant to the brand that I am building online. It's relevant to the brand I've built with my friends and my family. And so understand that you don't need to fully encompass yourself on the internet, and you never will be able to, no matter how much you try. And trying to show all of you on the internet is probably going to lead to burnout, because then you are going to have your entire identity tied into your content. And so when your content stops performing well, you're going to have no separation of who you are and what you post. And so every time a video doesn't do well, it's going to feel like an attack on you. If somebody leaves a hate comment on a video of mine and they think they know me as a person and they vehemently attack me, I am able to separate who I am online from who I am as a person. I'm able to rationalize the fact that these people are judging me based on a 45-second video, and they have no idea who I am outside of the internet. They have no idea who I am outside of that one video. And because I'm able to have that separation, it helps me have a much healthier relationship with my work, with my personal brand, because I know that I am a human being outside of this. So you are authentic by not lying. You are authentic by showing up exactly as you want to, exactly as who you are in the context of what is relevant to what you want to share online. It's not inauthentic to keep things from your online presence that aren't relevant. No one needs to know who you're dating if you're not a dating coach. No one needs to know, what your fitness journey looks like, or what if you're on a weight loss journey if that's not relevant to your content. Nobody needs to know what you do in your own personal home if it's not relevant to the type of content that you share. Your audience gets to see one side of you, or maybe a few sides of you, but they will never be able to see the totality of who you are as a person. I got some questions about how I script my content to be so engaging, and also how I became a mindset coach. So how to script your content to be engaging comes from having a deep understanding of who your audience is, and understanding that your audience is you. When you're building a personal brand, your audience is a reflection of you. So this is where the fun part, or also the hard part of building a personal brand comes in. You have to be self-aware. You have to stop living in Delulu land, and you have to start asking yourself some hard questions. When you're struggling, or when you're thinking about things and you're in this tornado, it's time to stop letting those feelings pass by. It's time to stop letting your subconscious just run wild, and it's time to start capturing those thoughts and thinking about what they actually mean. It's time to start capturing those things that make you you, the reasons that you think the way you do, the reason you love the things that you do, the reason you attract the kind of people you do. It's time to start realizing what those things are, because once you realize them within yourself, you'll be able to communicate that through your content. And this applies whether you want to be a mindset coach, whether you want to be just an influencer, whether you want to be a business owner, whatever. You need to get really comfortable with identifying who you are and becoming incredibly self-aware, because that's going to allow you to make content that cuts through the noise. You're going to know what your limiting beliefs are. You're going to know what the thoughts that go on through your head are, and you're going to be able to talk yourself through those things, through those limiting beliefs, through those thoughts, through those moments in your life. And by talking yourself through it, it's going to come off as very nuanced. It's going to come off as very impactful, and it's going to channel through your audience in a way that's actually interesting rather than just sounding like another cookie cutter person saying, here's 5 tips for doing this. You're going to actually sound profound because you are not sharing it from the perspective that everybody else is sharing. Again, you're not creating content for an audience. You are creating content for you and allowing the people who resonate and share similarities and values and morals and ethics and interests and hobbies to you connect with that message at the same time. Think about songwriters, right? Or musicians. I love music and pop culture, so I make a lot of music references. Musicians write songs based on their experiences. And then the people who listen to the music relate to the lyrics and therefore love the song and love the artist. But the artist did not write, at least most of the good artists, did not write those lyrics for the audience. They wrote the lyrics based on their experience, and they knew that there were probably a lot of people who shared in those feelings. And that's why people like SZA are able to write such descriptive music that really captures the feeling in a way that it feels like nobody else can, because she is creating music for her. She is creating lyrics that resonate with her, and they sound different because she's not trying to show lyrics that are going to resonate with everybody else, because when you try to resonate with everybody, you dilute your message. You come with disclaimers and different possibilities. She's very direct in exactly how she feels, which allows the people who feel the same way to find her and truly feel seen in her music. And obviously there's some tactics and practical things that go into storytelling, which is something I'm going to be teaching in my little focus group that I'm going to be doing, but it would be way too much for me to shove into a podcast episode right now. The last question I'm going to answer in this episode of the podcast is, how do you know you have a successful personal brand? You know you have a successful personal brand based on the engagement that you get with your audience and the opportunities that come from sharing your message and sharing your story. So getting a lot of views and likes is not indicative of whether or not you have a successful personal brand. There are a lot of influencers who have millions of followers who have hosted a meet and greet with nobody who shows up. Having a successful personal brand means that people show up for you. People present you with opportunities. When somebody thinks about what it is that you do or what it is that you talk about or a feeling that they feel or a story that they are going through, you're one of the first people that comes to their mind. So for me, when somebody thinks about, somebody who's going to take a human approach and help me live in my purpose and help me build my social media feed in a way that isn't all about being a marketing hustle bro, like I want to be the person that comes to somebody's mind. And I am the first person that comes to a lot of people's minds. Knowing that you're getting a lot of comments, knowing that a lot of people are sharing your videos, knowing that you're getting a lot of DMs, knowing that if you start a project, people actually show up to that project. Like I started this podcast and immediately people are flooding to the podcast because they want to hear what I have to say in a longer format, because they're so used to seeing me in short form and they're so impacted by the short form content that they are curious what I could offer in a long form way. I have people who buy from me in my business because my content resonates and my process resonates and the way that I work resonates and the way that I speak to people resonates. So I have a 6-figure business, which is indicative that I have a personal brand. Having a successful personal brand means that you are at the top of people's minds when it comes to the story that you're creating. It means that people show up for you, whether that's in your, meet and greets, whether it's in your business, whether it's in your podcast that you start, your YouTube channel that you start. That is what it means to have a personal brand, is to have an audience that truly cares about who you are as a person. Again, I'm going to be taking on 10 content creators, entrepreneurs, or creatives into a very concentrated cohort that's all about designing your personal brand from scratch. We're going to get super detailed on what it is that you want to say to the world, who your audience is, what is your unique point of view, how to structure your content, how to be a good storyteller, everything you need to be able to go off and build a personal brand that has real long-lasting impact. It's going to be a 4-week program. And so you can message me on Instagram at Donavan Barrett, or you can email me at donavan@narrativecreative.agency. I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode of the podcast. I am really happy that I got to share these tips with you. Please, please, please take the next year to change your life. A year is a very small price to pay in the context of your life in order for you to have more freedom of time, income, and a fulfillment for what you love to do for the rest of your life. So take a chance and bet on yourself and trust that you are capable. If you did enjoy this episode of the podcast, it really helps if you leave a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and share this video with your friends. And follow me on social media at Donavan Barrett pretty much everywhere. Thank you guys so much for the support of this podcast as always, and I will see you next week for the next episode. Bye.